Today, I'll reveal the hidden psychology behind those messages and show you exactly how they expose what she's really doing behind your back. These aren't guesses or theories. These are documented manipulation tactics that relationship therapists, infidelity investigators, and psychology experts have identified as consistent patterns in cases of emotional and physical infidelity. Before we begin, hit subscribe and drop a comment if you've ever received a text that felt off, but you couldn't explain why. This video might help you decode the truth behind those messages before it's too late. And drop your city or country below. Let's see where this message reaches around the world. Text 1. Why don't you trust me? The guilt test. This is one of the most common and effective manipulation tactics in the cheater's playbook. She sends this when she knows you're beginning to question her behavior, when she senses your suspicion growing, when she realizes you're connecting dots she'd prefer stayed disconnected. It appears as a question, seems like a request for reassurance, but it's neither. It's a trap, carefully designed to make you feel guilty for being suspicious, for noticing inconsistencies, for asking reasonable questions about unreasonable behavior. What it really means, this text is a preemptive strike. She's not seeking reassurance about your feelings. She's reframing the entire situation to put you on the defensive. Instead of her answering questions about her suspicious behavior, she's forcing you to justify your perfectly reasonable suspicion. The conversation shifts from, "What are you hiding?" to, "Why am I such a terrible, untrusting partner?" Female psychology behind it. She's employing emotional reversal, a manipulation tactic where the person in the wrong redirects blame and guilt onto the person who noticed the wrongdoing. By making trust the issue rather than her behavior, she tests whether you'll back down and doubt your own instincts. She's measuring your backbone, your willingness to hold boundaries, your tendency to prioritize her feelings over your own clarity. If you immediately apologize and reassure her, she learns that guilt works on you. She learns she can shut down your questions with emotional manipulation. She learns that all she needs to do when caught is play the victim, and you'll abandon your pursuit of truth to comfort her manufactured distress. Real-life example. You notice she's been distant lately, coming home later than usual, always on her phone, but angling it away from you. You finally ask, "Where were you last night? You said you'd be home at 9 but didn't get in until midnight." Her response, "Why don't you trust me? After everything we've been through, you still question me?" Notice what happened. She didn't answer where she was. She didn't explain the 3-hour discrepancy. She didn't provide reassurance or clarity. She turned your reasonable question into an accusation against your character. Now you're defending yourself for asking a basic question instead of her explaining suspicious behavior. What to do? Do not apologize for having boundaries or asking for basic accountability. Respond with calm, factual persistence. It's not about trust as an abstract concept. I'm asking a specific question about a specific situation. Where were you between 9 and midnight? A truthful person will answer the question. They might be hurt that you asked, but they'll still provide the information because they have nothing to hide. A guilty person fears clarity and specificity. They'll continue deflecting, continue making it about your trust issues rather than their whereabouts, continue turning themselves into the victim of your supposedly paranoid questions. Text 2. I fell asleep early. The consistency test. A classic alibi text that appears so innocuous you might feel paranoid for questioning it. When she disappears for hours, not responding to texts, not answering calls, completely unreachable, and then follows up with this simple excuse, she's testing how easily you accept lazy, unverifiable explanations. If you accept this excuse once without question, she knows she can repeat it endlessly without scrutiny. What it really means, this text serves as a barometer for your tolerance of suspicious behavior. She's measuring whether you'll accept a convenient explanation that can't be proven or disproven, whether you'll let unexplained disappearances slide with minimal pushback, whether she can establish a pattern of vanishing and returning with a simple, "I was asleep," as sufficient explanation. Female psychology behind it. Cheating behavior thrives on predictable, passive responses. Every time you accept a weak excuse without follow-up questions, you're training her that this level of accountability is sufficient. She's conditioning you, slowly expanding the boundaries of what you'll accept as normal. First, it's falling asleep early occasionally. Then it's happening multiple times a week. Then she's unreachable for entire evenings on a regular basis, and you've been conditioned not to question it. The "fell asleep" excuse is particularly effective because it's both unverifiable and makes questioning it seem unreasonable. You can't prove she wasn't asleep, and if you push back too hard, you look like the paranoid partner who can't even accept that she went to bed early. Real-life example. Friday night, she tells you she's staying in, tired from a long week. You text her at 8 p.m., no response. You call at 9 p.m., straight to voicemail. You text again at 10 p.m., nothing. Finally, at midnight, you get a text. "Sorry, babe, fell asleep early, so exhausted. Talk tomorrow." The excuse sounds plausible, but let's examine the inconsistencies. If she was so exhausted she fell asleep at 8 p.m., how did she wake up at exactly midnight to text you? Why didn't she respond when she woke up to use the bathroom, get water, or check her phone? Things everyone does during the night. Why does this convenient "fell asleep early" excuse always coincide with evenings when you particularly needed to reach her, or when you later discover inconsistencies in her story? What to do? Ask neutral, caring follow-up questions that require specific answers. That's unusual for you to fall asleep so early. Are you feeling okay? Is something stressing you out? Watch carefully whether she gets immediately defensive or provides vague, circular responses. A truthful person who genuinely fell asleep will provide details. "Yeah, I've been feeling run down. I think I'm coming down with something." A deceptive person will get irritated that you're asking follow-up questions at all. "Why are you interrogating me about falling asleep? This is exhausting." Also, look for patterns. If "fell asleep early" becomes a recurring explanation for unreachability, especially on specific nights or at specific times, the pattern itself is the evidence, regardless of whether any individual instance can be disproven. Text 3. I'm just out with the girls. The plausibility test. This text is designed to normalize frequent absences and condition you to accept them without verification. It's not about informing you of her whereabouts. It's about establishing plausible deniability and testing whether you'll ever actually verify these claims. The message itself sounds innocent and normal. Women have friends. Women go out with those friends. What could be suspicious about that? What it really means, this text establishes an alibi that's difficult to challenge without seeming controlling or insecure. By repeatedly using the same general explanation without specific details, she's measuring your curiosity threshold and your willingness to ask follow-up questions. Each time you accept "out with the girls" without asking which girls, where, or for how long, she learns that this excuse provides adequate cover for whatever she's actually doing. Female psychology behind it. This message is often paired with deliberate vagueness and a lack of follow-up details. If she sends this text and then goes completely silent for the next 4 hours, she's creating a window where she's unaccountable and unreachable, using a socially acceptable excuse as cover. She's testing whether you'll accept periodic disappearances as long as she labels them with this magic phrase. The phrase "the girls" is purposely non-specific, not Sarah and Michelle, not my co-workers, not my college friends, just "the girls," a vague collective that can mean anyone and therefore can't be easily verified. It's strategic ambiguity designed to sound transparent while actually revealing nothing. Real-life example. Saturday afternoon, she texts, "Going out with the girls tonight, don't wait up." You text back, "Cool, have fun. Which friends?" Her response is either noticeably delayed or deliberately vague. Just some of the girls from work, or you don't know them, or simply not answering that specific question at all. If you push further, "Oh, like Jennifer and Amanda," she might get irritated. "Why do you need a full list? Are you going to call them to verify my story or something?" This defensive response is revealing. A person actually going out with friends wouldn't be defensive about naming those friends. It's a basic, normal question that should have a simple, immediate answer. Watch also for inconsistency in these girls' nights. Does she mention them frequently, but you never meet these friends? Do you never see photos from these outings on her social media? Does she come home from these events without stories about what they did or talked about? These gaps suggest the girls' night might be a recurring alibi rather than a recurring event. What to do? Don't confront in the moment. Observe and document over time. Mental note when she uses this excuse and watch for patterns. How often does "out with the girls" coincide with other suspicious behavior? Emotional distance, decreased intimacy, increased phone secrecy. Does this excuse always appear on the same day of the week, suggesting a recurring pattern rather than spontaneous social plans? You can also occasionally ask natural, non-accusatory follow-up questions. How was girls' night? What did you all end up doing? If her answers are consistently vague, or she gets annoyed at casual interest in her evening, that's telling. Normal nights out with friends produce stories, funny moments, complaints about someone who drank too much, details that come naturally from real experiences. Text. 4. You're overthinking everything. The deflection test. This text is designed to invalidate your intuition and make you question your own perception of reality. When she senses that you're connecting dots, noticing patterns, recognizing inconsistencies in her stories, she'll deploy this message to convince you that the problem isn't her suspicious behavior. It's your overactive, paranoid, untrusting imagination. What it really means: this is gaslighting in convenient digital form. By labeling your legitimate suspicion as overthinking, she's attempting to rewrite your reality. She's testing how easily she can make you doubt your own observations, how quickly you'll abandon your gut instinct to preserve harmony, how much she can manipulate your perception of events. The message implies that you're the problem. Your pattern recognition is faulty. Your instincts are wrong. Your observations are misinterpretations. Everything would be fine if you would just stop analyzing, stop noticing, stop thinking so much about inconsistencies that she'd prefer you ignore. Female psychology behind it. This is a critical test of your psychological boundaries and self-trust. If she can convince you that your instincts are wrong when they're actually right, she gains enormous power in the relationship. You become easy to deceive because you've been trained to distrust the very mechanism, your intuition, that would otherwise protect you from deception. Women who deploy this tactic are testing whether you value her approval more than you trust your own judgment. They're measuring whether the desire to be seen as a chill, non-jealous, trusting partner will override your willingness to investigate genuine red flags. Real-life example. You've noticed she's been different lately, more distant emotionally, always on her phone, but secretive about who she's texting, coming home later than expected several times a week. You finally bring it up. "I feel like something's off between us. You seem distant, and there are some things that aren't adding up." Her response: "You're overthinking everything. You always do this. You create problems that don't exist. Everything is fine. You're just being paranoid and making both of us miserable with your constant suspicion." Notice the structure of this response. It doesn't address any specific concern you raised. It doesn't explain the distance or the changed behavior. Instead, it attacks your credibility, your judgment, your mental state. It reframes the conversation from, "Why has your behavior changed?" to, "Why are you so paranoid and difficult?" What to do? Stay grounded in observable facts. Respond calmly and specifically. "I'd rather overthink now than ignore something important later. I'm not imagining that you're on your phone more than usual. That's observable fact. I'm not inventing that you've cancelled our plans 3 times this month. That happened. I'm not creating the distance between us. I'm noticing it and trying to understand it." This response does several important things. It refuses to accept the gaslighting. It grounds the conversation in specific, verifiable facts rather than vague feelings. It signals that you trust your own observations and won't be easily talked out of reality. A truthful person might be hurt that you're concerned, but they'll engage with your specific observations and provide explanations. A deceptive person will escalate the gaslighting. The fact that you're keeping track like this is psychotic. This is why I don't want to tell you things. You turn everything into an investigation. Text 5. You don't trust me anymore, do you? The emotional trap. This message is not about trust. It's about control and emotional manipulation. She's deliberately trying to shift the narrative from her behavior to your loyalty, making you feel like the villain for noticing changes, for asking questions, for requiring basic honesty and transparency. It's designed to trigger guilt and fear simultaneously. What it really means? This question is a sophisticated manipulation that tests whether you fear losing her more than you value discovering the truth. It exploits your attachment and your desire to be a good partner. By framing herself as the wounded party, hurt by your lack of trust, she attempts to make you abandon your questions and rush to reassure her instead. The message carries an implicit threat. Continue questioning me, and you'll damage this relationship beyond repair. It suggests that your suspicion is the real problem, not whatever behavior triggered that suspicion in the first place. Female psychology behind it. This text is often deployed preemptively, before you've even explicitly accused her of anything. She senses growing suspicion, notices you're pulling back or asking more questions, and she strikes first with this emotional bomb. By making herself the victim of your distrust before you've even fully articulated your concerns, she attempts to shut down the entire conversation before it starts. The psychology is manipulation through emotional leverage. She's betting that your fear of being seen as a bad partner, your desire to preserve the relationship, your instinct to comfort her distress will override your need for truth and clarity. If it works, if you immediately backtrack and reassure her, she learns that weaponizing your emotions is an effective way to silence suspicion. Real-life example. Nothing specific has happened today, but you've been quietly distant because you're processing a lot of small inconsistencies you've noticed over the past few weeks. You haven't confronted her yet. You're still gathering your thoughts, trying to decide if your concerns are valid or if you're being paranoid. Out of nowhere, she texts, "You don't trust me anymore, do you? I can feel it. You're different with me. You're pulling away. After everything we've been through, you still don't believe in me." This is a preemptive strike. She's sensed your emotional withdrawal, and she's trying to frame it as your failure of trust rather than her creation of legitimate doubt. She's putting you on the defensive before you've even decided to go on offense. What to do? Do not rush to comfort or reassure. Resist the impulse to immediately say, "No, of course I trust you." Instead, turn the question back with calm curiosity. "That's an interesting question. Is there a specific reason you feel I shouldn't trust you? Has something happened that would make trust an issue?" This response is psychologically revealing. A truthful person will be confused by the question, "What?" "No, nothing happened. I just feel like you're being distant, and I'm worried about us." They'll welcome the opportunity to discuss what's creating distance because they genuinely want to resolve it. Text 6. I miss you. Right after going silent. The guilt cleanse. This is one of the sneakiest manipulation tactics because it comes wrapped in apparent affection and positive emotion. After a period of suspicious absence, unreachability, or emotional distance, she sends a sweet, loving message designed to reset the emotional mood and make you forget the concerning behavior that preceded it. It's not genuine affection expressing itself spontaneously. It's calculated damage control. What it really means. This text serves as an emotional reset button. Whatever suspicion or hurt or confusion you are feeling about her recent absence or strange behavior is supposed to dissolve in the warm glow of this affectionate message. She's testing whether emotional breadcrumbs, small gestures of affection deployed strategically, are sufficient to make you overlook or forget red flags. If they work, she knows she can disappear again, behave suspiciously again, and patch things up with another well-timed "I miss you." Female psychology behind it. The timing is the key psychological element here. This message doesn't come randomly. It comes specifically after periods when she knows you might be questioning things, after she was unreachable for an evening, after she was distant all weekend, after she cancelled plans last minute. The "I miss you" appears precisely when she needs to smooth things over and re-establish positive feelings. Real-life example. Thursday evening, she tells you she's working late on a big project. You try calling around 8 p.m. No answer. You text at 9 p.m. asking when she'll be home. No response. At 10 p.m., you're genuinely worried and starting to get frustrated. Still nothing. Friday morning, you wake up to a text that came in at 2 a.m. I miss you, can't wait to see you tonight. You mean everything to me. The message is sweet, it's affectionate, it makes you feel valued, and that's precisely the point. It's designed to make you focus on the warm feelings the message creates, rather than on the fact that she was completely unreachable for an entire evening with no explanation. The affection is the distraction from the suspicious absence. What to do? Look at timing patterns, not tone or sentiment. If expressions of affection consistently and suspiciously follow periods of questionable behavior, those expressions aren't authentic connection. They're strategic guilt management and manipulation. Keep a mental log of when these affectionate texts appear. Are they random acts of love spread throughout your relationship? Or do they cluster around times when she's been distant, unavailable, or caught in inconsistencies? The pattern reveals the purpose. Remember, trust your instincts. If a text makes you feel uncomfortable, confused, or gaslit, you're probably picking up on manipulation that your conscious mind hasn't fully processed yet. Your intuition is often right, even when you can't immediately articulate why.